You ever get that feeling in your gut? That little nagging voice saying, "Hey, something's not right here." Well, that voice started whispering to me about 3 months ago. And like an absolute genius, I ignored it. First, it was small things. Emily started putting more effort into her outfits. Not for date nights, not for work, just randomly. Suddenly, she had a deep, burning passion for going to the gym at 8 p.m. Even though the woman once told me, "I don't run unless something is chasing me." And then there was her phone. Look, I'm not the jealous type. I spent 4 years in the Marines, and if there's one thing they teach you, it's how to trust your team. I applied the same logic to my marriage. But Emily? She started treating her phone like it contained the nuclear codes. Before, she'd leave it lying around. Now, that thing was glued to her hand. If I so much as glanced at it, she'd tilt the screen away like a teenager hiding bad grades. And speaking of teenagers, her texts suddenly had emojis. Lots of them. Emily hates emojis. This woman once said, and I quote, "If you need a tiny cartoon face to express yourself, maybe rethink your life choices." Yet now, heart emojis, winky faces, even brace yourself gifs. Something was up. But the moment that really made my stomach drop? One night, she came home late from dinner with the girls. She smelled like cologne, and not mine. I asked about it. She laughed it off. "Oh, you know how bars are. People bump into you." Yeah, sure. Because nothing says girls' night like coming home smelling like a dude who wears expensive cologne and probably calls women sweetheart, unironically. But here's the thing. At that moment, I still wanted to believe her. I just didn't know that soon I'd get an answer. One I could never unsee. And the worst part? I wouldn't be the only one witnessing it. Alright, so by this point, I was on high alert. Not full conspiracy theorist with a corkboard and string mode yet, but close. Emily was acting weird, and my gut was screaming at me. Then one night I got the call. It was from my brother-in-law, Mike. Now, you need to understand something about Mike. He's the definition of a no-nonsense, straight-to-the-point guy. The man once broke up with a girl via PowerPoint presentation. If he's calling me, something is up. I answer, "Hey man, you busy?" Now, I don't know if it's just me, but whenever someone starts a call with, "You busy?" the answer is always not anymore. What's going on? Because you already know something's coming. He sighs. Big, long, dramatic. The kind of sigh you hear before bad news drops. Listen, I wasn't gonna say anything, but I saw Emily tonight. My heart rate spikes. Okay, fine. Deep breath. Play it cool. Oh yeah? Where at? That little steakhouse over on 4th. But, she wasn't alone. Boom. Just like that, my whole body tensed. Because here's the thing, Emily never goes to steakhouses. The woman has spent the last 10 years lecturing me about the horrors of red meat. If she's suddenly indulging in a ribeye, something is very wrong. Who was she with? I ask even though I really don't want the answer. Some guy. Tall, dark hair. Wearing one of those stupid too-tight button-downs that guys wear when they think they're cooler than they are. I know the type. Shiny shoes. Probably smells like overpriced cologne and calls waiters boss. You sure it was her? I say, still clinging to the tiny, microscopic hope that maybe it was just a case of mistaken identity. Mike doesn't hesitate. 100%. And Nate? She wasn't just sitting across from him. She was sitting next to him. If you're married, you get why that's a red flag. No married woman sits next to another man at a restaurant unless 1. It's her brother. 2. It's a business meeting with a PowerPoint involved. 3. It's a date. Now, I don't know everything in life, but I do know this. Emily only has one brother, and he is currently in Arizona. I gripped the phone tighter. You sure it looked intimate? Mike hesitates. Look, man, I don't want to be the guy that ruins marriages, but let's just say, if I were you, I'd be asking some serious questions. Silence. Then Mike adds something that shakes me to my core. And Nate. She kissed him. Oh, okay. Now it's real. Let me tell you something about rage. It doesn't hit all at once. Starts slow like a pot of water on low heat. And then boom. It boils over before you even realize what's happening. At that moment, my blood was at a full rolling boil. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my phone. I just sat there. Because when something this big happens, your brain short-circuits. Mike kept talking, but I barely heard him. Something about not jumping to conclusions and how maybe there was an explanation. But here's the thing. There's no maybe when someone kisses a man in public who is not her husband. So I did what any sane man in my position would do. I got up, grabbed my keys and walked out the door. Because suddenly I needed answers. And I was going to get them. I drove around for an hour before I realized I had no clue where I was actually going. My plan, if you could even call it that, was simple. Find Emily, demand an explanation, and somehow make sense of the fact that my wife, the woman who lectures me on the importance of loyalty every time I forget to text her back, was out there playing footsie with some guy in a steakhouse. But I had a problem. I had no proof. Sure, Mike saw her. But people panic when they get caught. They lie, they twist things, they gaslight. And Emily? She's a gold medal gaslighter. I could already hear it. Oh my God, Nate. I was just catching up with an old friend. You're being ridiculous. It was nothing. Why are you even listening to Mike? You know he hates me. That last one might actually be true, but still. So I turned the car around and went home. Not because I wasn't mad. Because I needed to be smart. The moment I walked in the door, I knew something was off. Emily was sitting on the couch, TV on. But she didn't look comfortable. She looked stiff. Like a kid who knows they're about to get in trouble. Her phone was face down on the coffee table. That's when I knew. Because Emily never puts her phone face down. She's one of those people who scrolls Instagram while pretending to watch TV. Always. I stood in the doorway staring at her. She didn't look up. Okay, fine. Game on. Hey! I said real casual. How was dinner? She flicked her eyes toward me. Too fast. Then smiled. Too wide. Oh, it was great. You know, just the usual girls' night. Nothing exciting. Lies. All lies. I shrugged, walking into the kitchen. Opened the fridge. Didn't even want anything, just needed to think. Where'd you guys go? That little sushi place on 8th. Now, I'm no detective, but I'm pretty sure sushi and steak are not the same thing. I turned, leaning against the counter. Sushi, huh? She nodded, still pretending to watch TV. Weird, I said. Mike said he saw you at the steakhouse on 4th. Silence. Not long. Half a second, maybe, but long enough. Then the performance began. Her eyebrows shot up. What? No, that's crazy. I wasn't at a steakhouse. She laughed. Actually laughed. Like the idea was so absurd it was hilarious. Mike must have seen someone else, she said, shaking her head. You know how bad he is with faces. This was it. This was the moment. Because a normal person, an innocent person, would have said something like, wait, what? He thinks he saw me? That's weird. I was at sushi. But Emily? She didn't sound confused. She sounded defensive. Guilty. I could feel the rage bubbling up again. But I pushed it down. Not yet. Huh? I said, playing dumb. Maybe he was wrong. Emily nodded. Yeah, probably. You know Mike. He's always stirring up drama. Right? Must be that, I said. Then, as casually as possible, I walked over, picked up her phone, and flipped it over. Locked. She never locks her phone. And that was all the proof I needed. I set it back down, looked her in the eye, and smiled. All right, I said. Sounds like a fun night. Then I walked upstairs. Because now I had a plan. I barely slept that night. Not because I was sad, no. We were way past sadness. This wasn't some romantic drama where the betrayed husband stares out a rainy window, whispering, how could she? No, this was a mission. I spent most of the night lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every detail in my head. The way she reacted. The split-second hesitation before she denied it. The fact that her phone was locked for the first time in 10 years. Emily was hiding something, and I was going to find out who she was hiding it with. The next morning, I acted normal. Kissed her on the cheek before she left for work. Even made a dumb joke about her wild girls' night. She laughed like everything was fine, like she wasn't lying through her teeth. As soon as she was gone, I grabbed my keys and drove straight to the one person who could help me figure this out. Mike. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I just go through her phone? Believe me, I wanted to, but Emily's not stupid. If she locked it, she cleared everything incriminating. That meant I needed outside intel. When I got to Mike's place, he answered the door in sweatpants and a hoodie that said "World's Okayest Brother." "Dude, it's 7:30 in the morning," he groaned. "Yeah, and my wife is cheating on me. You gonna invite me in or what?" That woke him up. Fast. 5 minutes later, we were sitting in his kitchen, coffee in hand, and I was drilling him with questions. "Tell me everything. What did the guy look like?" Mike scratched his chin. "Like the kind of guy who gets haircuts every 2 weeks. You know, one of those clean-cut but trying too hard dudes." "Did you hear anything? Did they say his name?" "Nope. But I did see her get into his car after." "Bingo. What kind of car?" "Black BMW. New. One of those obnoxious ones where the headlights look angry." I leaned back, processing. That narrowed it down. Not a coworker. Emily works at a nonprofit, and nobody there is rolling up in a brand new BMW. Not one of her old college friends. Those guys were all married dads driving minivans. That meant one thing. This guy wasn't just some fling. He had money. And suddenly, a thought hit me. Where did Emily even meet someone like that? Mike must have seen the wheels turning in my head, because he smirked. "Oh, I know that look. You got a plan, don't you?" I grinned. "Mike, I'm about to be the best private investigator this town has ever seen. Because if Emily wanted to play dirty, she had no idea who she was messing with. Here's something you should know about me. I don't lose. Maybe it's the Marine in me. Maybe it's growing up with 3 older brothers who never let me win a single game of basketball until I was good enough to beat them myself. But the second I realized Emily was hiding something, my brain flipped a switch. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a challenge. And I don't back down from challenges. So while Emily was out, pretending life was normal, I got to work. First step, identify the target. A black BMW. New. That was my only lead. Not exactly enough to go full detective mode, but enough to start looking. Now, here's where being married for 10 years comes in handy. I knew Emily's routines better than she did. Monday through Friday, work at the nonprofit, home by 6. Saturdays, yoga with her friend Megan, then coffee, then mysteriously running errands for 3 hours. I suddenly had a very strong suspicion those errands involved someone else's passenger seat. So that Saturday, instead of spending my morning fixing up the garage like I told Emily, I followed her. Now, before anyone gets all, "Whoa, that's crazy behavior, Nate," let me be clear. I wasn't creeping around in a ski mask or hiding in bushes. I just casually took my truck, parked across the street from her yoga studio, and waited. Completely normal husband behavior. And sure enough, at exactly 10:15 a.m., I watched Emily walk out the door, pull out her phone, and smile. The kind of smile I hadn't seen from her in years. Then, right on cue, a black BMW pulled up. Bingo. Emily got in without hesitation. Not in the passenger seat, in the driver's seat. Which meant only one thing. This wasn't just some guy. This was someone who trusted her with his car. And that was important. Because if there's one thing I know about guys who drive brand new BMWs, it's this: they care more about their cars than their relationships. And that gave me an idea. Oh, this was about to get interesting. I sat in my truck, watching as my wife and BMW guy drove off, laughing like they were in some rom-com montage. And let me tell you, there is nothing more infuriating than seeing your wife giggle like a lovesick teenager in another man's car. But instead of losing my mind, I did what any rational, level-headed man would do. I called her father. Now, let me paint a picture of Robert. He's a retired cop. The kind of guy who still wakes up at 5 a.m. out of habit, polishes his boots even though he doesn't wear them anymore, and refers to bad decisions as felony stupid. And let's just say, Robert is not a man you want to disappoint. So I dialed his number, took a deep breath, and prepared for a very, very interesting conversation. "Nate, everything all right?" Hey Robert, quick question for you. Are you busy today? Nope. Why? I smiled. Hook, line and sinker. Because I just caught Emily getting into another man's car. Thought you might want to see what your daughter's been up to on her errand runs. Silence. Then the voice of a very angry father. Where are you? Now, let me tell you. There are very few things more satisfying than seeing a father realize his perfect little girl isn't so perfect. Robert met me at a diner near our house an hour later. He walked in, sat down, and didn't even touch his coffee. Bad sign. This man once drank coffee through a power outage just to prove he wasn't soft. Tell me everything. So I did. Every detail. The weird phone behavior. The locked screen. The steakhouse. The BMW. And let me tell you, I have never seen a man clench his jaw so hard in my life. You sure about this? He asked, even though we both knew the answer. Saw it with my own eyes, Robert. He exhaled through his nose. Long, slow. Dangerous. So, he finally said, what's the plan? Oh, Robert, I'm so glad you asked, because I had a plan. And Emily was about to have the worst day of her life. You ever experience a moment where time slows down, and you just know, this is going to be legendary? That was me and Robert as we pulled up to my house. Now, normally, I'd walk through that front door like any other day. But today was special. Because while Emily thought I was at work, I was about to walk in with her father. And she had no idea. We stepped onto the porch and that's when I saw it BMW guy's shoes. Right there. By the door. Oh, Emily. You really thought I was that stupid? Robert saw them too. He didn't say a word. Just flexed his fingers like he was preparing to physically remove this man from existence. I put a hand on his shoulder. Deep breaths, Robert. We do this my way. Your way better be good, son. Oh, it would be. I unlocked the door real slow. No slamming, no yelling, just a casual, completely unsuspecting entrance. And then we walked in. Straight into a scene I will never, ever forget. There they were. Emily and BMW guy. On the couch. Doing things that should not be done in a living room. Her back was to us. She didn't even hear us come in. But BMW guy? Oh, he saw us. And the look on his face? Priceless. I wish I could have taken a picture. He froze, eyes wide, like a deer caught in high-beam headlights and judgment. Emily? She must have sensed something was off, because she turned her head. And when she saw us standing there, every drop of color drained from her face. I swear, for a full 3 seconds, nobody moved. Just me, her furious father, and BMW guy, who was suddenly reevaluating all his life choices. Then Robert spoke. And I kid you not, the man didn't even yell. He just said, Emily, get up. And that was somehow worse than screaming. Because there's something about a quiet, controlled rage that just hits different. Emily scrambled off the couch so fast she nearly tripped. Dad! What are you, Nate? Why are you home? Ah, there it was. The golden phrase. Why are you home? Not, this isn't what it looks like. Not, I can explain. Just, why are you home? Because in her mind, the only problem here was that she got caught. And in that moment I knew this wasn't just a mistake. This wasn't a lapse in judgment. She had been doing this for a while. Robert, he didn't even blink. He just turned his head, real slow, and locked eyes with BMW guy. Son, Robert said, voice dangerously calm. I suggest you start talking before I make some very regrettable decisions. And that's when things got really interesting. You ever see someone's entire world shatter in real time? Because that's exactly what happened to Emily. She stood there, frozen, like her brain couldn't process that this was actually happening. Like maybe, if she just blinked hard enough, she'd wake up in a universe where she wasn't half-dressed in our living room with another man while her husband and father stood watching. BMW guy, on the other hand? Oh, he was already in full survival mode. The second Robert spoke, this dude panicked. He grabbed his shirt off the floor, yanked it on like it was armor, and looked around like he was about to jump out the nearest window. Too bad for him, I was blocking the only exit. Whoa, man, he stammered, hands up, Let's just be cool. Okay? Oh, you want me to be cool? That's cute. Because at this point, I wasn't even angry in the way you'd expect. I wasn't screaming. I wasn't throwing punches. No, I was calm. And that scared him more than anything. I took a slow step forward. You got a name? BMW guy swallowed. Jason. Of course it was. He looked like a Jason. I nodded. Jason. Cool. Now, Jason, what exactly were you doing in my house? His mouth opened, closed. Nothing came out. Because really, what do you say in this situation? Look, man, I didn't know she was married, he finally said, voice cracking. Oh, no. See, I could have handled that lie if he hadn't immediately glanced at my wedding photo hanging on the wall. This man was out here disrespecting me in 4K and acting like I was blind. That's so? I asked, tilting my head. Then why'd you pick her up around the corner instead of at the house? Jason blinked. Busted. Listen, man. No. You listen. I stepped closer, and suddenly, Jason wasn't so confident anymore. I leaned in just enough for him to feel the shift in the room. You don't belong here, Jason, I said, voice low. You never did. And now, you're gonna leave. But before you do, I need you to do two things. Jason nodded so fast I thought his head might fly off. Okay, man. Anything. Whatever you want. First, put your shoes on. Because I don't know what kind of psychopath walks around another man's house barefoot. He scrambled to grab them, shaking so bad he nearly fell over. Second, I continued, watching as he shoved his feet into his overpriced sneakers. You're gonna tell me exactly how long this has been going on. Silence. Jason looked at Emily, like she was gonna save him. She didn't. Because Emily? She was still standing there, arms wrapped around herself, eyes darting between me and her dad like she was trying to calculate the exact level of danger. So Jason did what all cowards do when the pressure gets too high. He broke. A few months, he muttered. I smiled. Understood, good boy. Now get out. And let me tell you, I have never seen a man run so fast in my life. He practically tripped over himself getting to the door. I didn't even touch him, but he bolted out like I was chasing him with an axe. Emily stood there, still wrapped in a blanket she'd grabbed from the couch, like it was going to protect her from reality. I just stared at her, not saying anything, just letting her feel it. The silence, the weight of her choices, the fact that, in less than 5 minutes, she had lost everything. Robert hadn't moved either. He was just standing there, arms crossed, jaw clenched so tight I was half expecting him to crack a molar. Finally, Emily spoke. Nate, she whispered. Please, just, can we talk? Talk? Oh, now she wanted to talk? Now, after getting caught red-handed in our own living room? I let out a breath through my nose, then gave her a look. Talk about what, Emily? I said, voice flat. The weather? The economy? Or maybe you'd like to explain why you were rolling around on our couch with a guy named Jason while I was out paying the mortgage on this house. She winced, but I didn't care. She deserved to feel uncomfortable. She deserved to feel exactly what I was feeling, the pure, undeniable knowledge that there was no coming back from this. I made a mistake, she choked out, her eyes finally filling with tears. Oh, here it was. The waterworks. Right on cue. I almost laughed. A mistake, I echoed, shaking my head. No, Emily. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. A mistake is leaving the oven on. A mistake is not getting cozy with another man for months and assuming your husband is too stupid to notice. Her lips parted like she was about to say something. Probably some rehearsed, pathetic excuse. But I wasn't done. I leaned forward, keeping my voice even. Calm. Controlled. Dangerous. Tell me something, Emily, I said. When exactly were you planning on telling me? Or were you just going to keep sneaking around until I found out on my own? Like I did tonight. She swallowed, her fingers clutching the blanket tighter. I don't know. I nodded. Exactly the answer I expected. Then, for the first time since we walked in, Robert spoke. Go pack a bag, Emily, he said, voice cold. Emily's head snapped toward him. What? You heard me, he said. You're leaving. Tonight. Her eyes went wide. Dad, please, now. And let me tell you, there is something terrifying about a father's disappointment. I had never, in all the years I'd known Robert, seen him look at his daughter the way he did in that moment. Like he was seeing her for the first time. Like he didn't even recognize her. Emily was shaking now. But where am I supposed to go? I tilted my head. Maybe Jason's got a couch, I said. I mean, you seemed pretty comfortable on mine. She let out a broken sob, but I didn't care. I was done caring. Nate, please, she begged, stepping closer. I still love you. And that was the moment. That was the moment I felt everything just shut off. Because love doesn't do this. So I looked her dead in the eye and said the words I knew would break her.
No, Emily.
You love yourself. And that's the only thing you ever cared about. Then I turned my back. Because as far as I was concerned, she was already gone. Emily stood there, shaking, waiting for me to take it back. Waiting for me to say, it's okay, we can fix this. But she didn't understand something. There was no we anymore. She had destroyed that the moment she let another man into our home, onto our couch. And now it was my turn. She sniffled. Nate, please can't we? I cut her off with a sharp laugh. Oh, we're past please, Emily. You made your choices. Now you get to live with them. And with that, I turned to Robert. You want to make sure she actually leaves? With pleasure, he said, already stepping toward her. Good. Because I had other things to handle, like making sure Emily lost more than just this marriage. I grabbed my phone and made a few calls. Because here's the thing, Emily had been sloppy. She had taken risks. And now, those risks were about to bite her in the worst way. Within an hour, the wheels were in motion. Emily was about to find out just how much she stood to lose. Because getting kicked out of the house? That was just the beginning. Her real problems were about to start. I woke up the next morning feeling lighter. Emily was gone. She'd taken a duffel bag and whatever she could fit in it. Robert made sure she left, and for the first time in years my house felt like mine again. But I wasn't done. Not even close. See, Emily had built her whole life around being respected. She loved her image, her kind-hearted, hard-working wife persona. But that only worked when people didn't know the truth. And now, they were about to find out. Because one of the calls I made the night before was to her boss. Now, before you say, whoa, Nate, that's a little extreme. Let me explain. Emily worked at a nonprofit, a place that prided itself on integrity, trust, and good values. And guess what? Sleeping with a married donor? Not a good look. Oh, you heard me. Jason wasn't just some random fling. He was a wealthy donor who funded some of their biggest projects. And Emily? She had crossed every ethical line possible. By noon, her name was all over the office. By 3 p.m., she was fired. And by the end of the day, her reputation was in shambles. But it gets better. Because Emily, she had been living off me for years. Her salary was decent, but I paid for the house, the cars, the vacations. Now, she had no job, no home, and no safety net. And Jason wasn't answering her calls anymore. Because turns out, men like him don't stick around when the fun is over. So while she sat in a cheap motel, wondering how everything fell apart so fast, I was sitting on my couch, drinking a beer, feeling absolutely nothing. A week passed, then another. Emily never came back. She tried, though. Oh, she tried. The text started first. Long, desperate paragraphs about how sorry she was, how she made a mistake, how she just needed one chance to explain. Then came the voicemails. Crying, pleading, bargaining. But my personal favorite? The one where she said, I don't deserve to be punished for one bad decision. One bad decision. As if it had been a single, fleeting moment of weakness. As if she hadn't spent months sneaking around, lying to my face, laughing in my car, sleeping in my bed, all while planning errand runs that had nothing to do with errands. That was the last message I ever listened to. I blocked her number after that. I never responded, because there was nothing left to say. You know what's funny? I thought I'd feel broken after all of this. That I'd wake up every morning with a hole in my chest, wondering how I'd ever recover. But you know what I actually felt? Relief. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't walking on eggshells. I wasn't constantly trying to make someone happy who didn't even appreciate it. I was free. And Robert, he stuck around. I think in some weird way this whole mess brought us closer. At first, I thought he'd be distant, ashamed of his daughter, embarrassed to face me. But instead, he was at my house more than ever, helping me fix up the garage, watching old war movies on Saturdays, giving me advice I didn't even know I needed. One night we were sitting on my back porch, sipping whiskey, just enjoying the quiet. After a while, he turned to me and said, "You know, Nate, sometimes losing someone is the best thing that can happen to you." I nodded. Yeah, I think I finally get that. And I did. Because Emily, she thought she had ruined my life. But really, she set me free.